Gaming. Everything Noob. Starts now.
Episode 129. It's May the 4th. Happy Star Wars Day. It's Everything Noob podcast. How's it going? Tonight, Vortak and Jemmy. How are you?
Good.
Good?
You know, that Dreadlow guy isn't here.
That Dreadlow guy getting sick and stuff.
He's forcing me to say it's a good thing.
Be sure to send at Dreadlow Gaming your well wishes. He is sick. He is sick tonight. So we are doing the show without him. And tonight's theme, as we pick a theme for our shows from time to time, indie games. Tonight we were talking about indie development in particular. And yeah, it's kind of gotten crazy in my little universe, my YouTube channel. And so I thought I would, bring this to the podcast tonight. Jim and I are going to talk about that. And as I understand, you are well versed in the indie community.
Me? I mean, I kind of follow like Android indie game development. I usually poke around and play with indie Android games. Most of them are underwhelming, sadly. But I see a lot of potential for good games to come out of it because they don't have the influence of AAA companies. Like, let's microtransaction the hell out of it.
Yeah. It's gotten a little bit out of control with microtransactions, too. I think, was it last week I started bitching about Adventure Capitalist?
Let's just not go there.
Yeah.
Let's just stop.
Yeah. We've beaten that dead horse. I'm glad you mentioned mobile games, though, because part of my problem, I made a video yesterday. Was it Sunday? Yeah. Yesterday I made a video about how my inbox is full of these indie games. I get sent indie games all the time because I'm on all these different like indie lists, like Pixel Prospector and so on, where you post your YouTube channel and indie devs see it and go, "Oh, I want this YouTuber to cover my game." And so I took a couple weeks off. I've been playing, Grand Theft Auto. I've been trying to find an apartment. I've been really busy. I come back to almost 200 emails. I'm just short of 200 emails, 90% of them indie games. And a good portion of those indie games are mobile. And I can't cover mobile. I even say in my profiles, like, PC Gamer. That's me, that PC Gamer, and I still do
they give you, like, a PC version of the game? Where,
Rarely.
like, this is releasing for mobile, but here's a PC build of it so that you could record it and play it, actually?
It's rare that I get that. In fact...
If they did that, that's fair.
Yeah. There are programs you can get that basically emulate mobile games, so you can play them on your PC and record them.
I have that.
Yeah, I just don't really want to do that. There are so many PC games, and I'd rather just kind of stay in that niche, That's just kind of how I am. I think it'd be nice to kind of go off and cover a mobile game once in a while, but I've been so burned by mobile games. And a lot of them are just all the same. They're just really
They leave me out in the cold.
Yeah. Yeah, and now the new trend is trying to just use a mobile game to make as much money as possible hand over fist. And I'm not saying I've gotten a bunch of microtransaction games, but I have gotten ones that just they just don't look that good. They just kind of seem underdeveloped and rushed, and I don't know. I don't make indie games. That's the problem. I kind of wish I knew more about game development, because maybe I would have a little more... I have tons of respect for developers, but maybe I'd have a little more, I don't know, a better understanding before I start criticizing, "Oh, this game looks underdeveloped." Who am I to say that? I have no idea. It's just...
Well, I mean, if you take the demo and look at it for at least bare minimum 20 to 30 minutes, if you finish the demo probably in that amount of time, there's probably a good chance, probably not a lot of content to that game. Now, if it's a mobile game and it's just like a Flappy Bird clone, probably was a good Flappy Bird clone.
Yeah.
But if you're like doing some grand story RPG and you only have a 30-minute demo to show, you probably didn't even get a good snapshot of the game, even if it's a fully featured like demo, like here's the first 30 minutes of the game. You probably, if it's a good story, probably didn't even really get to play the game so much as watch the first, like, story dialogue develop.
I'm glad you brought up demos, because that's another problem. a bunch of the games in my inbox are the demo version of the game that is otherwise released already. And so instead of the developer sending me a full version of the game, I get a demo. And I can't really do anything with it. I kind of decided a while back, I tried to play some demos and record them, and they were really short and light, and the description made it sound like this awesome game, and the demo did not give me anywhere near that experience.
Is that really so much a problem with demos, or just that indie developers kind of shortchange their demos too much?
It's probably the latter. It's probably developers not putting a whole lot into their demo, maybe the first level, maybe the tutorial to the game, whatever it may be.
I don't think that's enough to have a demo, though. If you're trying to sell a game and use that as your promotional material, that's not enough.
Yeah.
For anybody.
I like the way Nintendo does demos. I mean, you can get a demo for some games, and you can sometimes it's like the full game, and you can just play it. And other times, it's the partial game. And there are every time I've gotten a Nintendo demo, should say this, it always has like a certain amount of plays, so you can turn it on 5 times and then it's gone. And sometimes they're full games and sometimes they're limited. Like Super Smash had like 5 characters you can play as.
It's hard to lock that out though on a PC environment. So I can see why you would just give like an encapsulated portion of the game that's just a tiny portion. So I think demos either need to be like a tiny arc that kind of display everything that's going on in the game, like the full battle system or whatever you got going on, and full menus and stuff like that, or you need the first couple of levels. How much, you really kind of need to calculate what's the average person going to take to complete the whole game. So is it like 20 hours? Maybe an hour or two of demo would be appropriate. Because that's just enough to get comfortable and get into what's going on, and then cut them off, and they're like, oh, but I need more.
Yeah, that's a good way to think of it. Like, how many hours is the game, and then take a chunk of that time and put it in your demo. I like that idea. There was one I played that was supposed to be like a point-and-click puzzle game, and I actually did record it. It was called Bulb Boy. And I liked it a lot. It was the demo that I recorded was very, I don't know, it was light. It was just the first level, but it gave me a really good feel for the game, which is why I recorded it anyway. Like, it was the perfect little bite of the game because it was exactly what I could expect the rest of the levels to be like. You point and click and you try to solve the puzzle.
Yeah. Well, that's just it. You got to craft a good demo. You've got to make a good example of the game.
Yeah.
And it really all depends on the type of game you're doing. But yeah, I've seen some crappy demos too. And I can see why you would get frustrated with demos because more often than not, if it's an indie dev, there's a science to creating a good demo. But you have to remember, a demo is also a teaser. And you want to get people hooked. And just to cut them off at a time where it's like, oh, but I need more.
Yeah. No, I agree. And, yeah, that's kind of why I stopped covering demos on my channel. It just, a lot of them fell short. Like, I don't really want to cover demos anymore. I think if you want someone to cover your game, it's kind of free advertising. I mean, it almost seems like common courtesy to give them a copy of the game. You're not, the success of your video determines...
press release copy.
Yeah. The success of your video determines how much money you make if you're allowed to monetize it. I mean, as a developer, I would think it's totally fair to give a free copy of the game as kind of a form of payment. Hey, if you put this game on your channel, you can keep it. And I've gotten a lot of awesome games that way.
I mean, you could also advertise for the quote-unquote press release where it's not the demo everybody else gets. It's a little bit bigger and a little bit longer.
Yeah, I've played games that kind of lock into a certain point in the game's timeline. So you get a game and they just don't update it.
Yeah. I mean, because you have to think about what's fair for the dev, too, and they don't want to... It's in their best interest not to give away their product. So I can understand why the attraction of giving away demo copies to people who are going to preview your game and give a review.
Well, if I manage to sell a game because of my video, that free game they gave me paid for itself.
It it did and it didn't.
I mean, that's assuming I only sell one, but here's a good example. I didn't get a copy of this game from a developer. I got it from a friend. Rising World. Played that game, put it on my channel, and I didn't even realize what I was getting into with that game, but the video got 60 to 70,000 views, and I can't even count how many comments I got that people, and I still, the other day I got one on the first episode, people saying, oh, I just got this game because of your video.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a game that I got for free, and I don't even know how many copies I've sold. Like, someone watched my video and said, I like this game. I'm going to buy it. They could look at Steam and look at screenshots and look at the video that the developers put up, but my video drove the sale.
Yeah. I'm not arguing that. I understand, but I'm thinking about it from a developer perspective, and especially in a PC environment where kind of piracy can run rampant and people just kind of share stuff. I can understand why they, especially if they are doing a press release period where the YouTubers they have hand selected get first crack at it. I can understand why they wouldn't want to throw the whole product out there, especially if they still need a few final touches. But I also think maybe they should get a larger demo than maybe that's on your website for the general consumption.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've always chalked it up to that's your advertising cost. The cost of one sale. I wouldn't have otherwise known about this game anyway. It just landed in my inbox. So really, I was never a buyer in the first place because I wasn't looking for this game.
No, I'm just saying I can see it from the developer's point of view, but it for me also I feel like that's the cost of doing business. But only if you feel like they really are going to generate sales. If you don't even think that they are going to review it, why did you even mail them in the first place? Or if you don't think any of their audience are going to end up buying it, just skip it and go to somebody else who's a more adequate venue to advertise with.
Yeah.
Or focus down your spectrum of who you would like to advertise for you and give out those free full copies. So maybe not 40 YouTubers, maybe 5.
You would be surprised how many developers or how many YouTubers developers contact. So I made this video and I put it on Reddit. And the Reddit, I showed you the Reddit thread before the show. It went nuts.
Yeah,
it blew up. And that's awesome. Like I put it in the game dev section of Reddit and it got tons of upvotes and stuff. And a lot of discussion generated from this video, which is cool. And it kind of raised all these questions and stuff. And I even said what could I do as a YouTuber to kind of improve the way I promote in indie dev, because I gave my list of reasons, and list of my guidelines for posting a game on YouTube, basically. And I got some pushback for certain ones. I'll get into that in a second. But, I mean, one or two developers talked about how many YouTubers they email, and one of them said that they emailed 2,000 YouTubers. Or was it 1,000?
I can see why those would definitely be no demo only because you're giving away too much product. But if you're emailing 2,000 YouTubers, one, you're probably not picking people who would even look at your game because it is in every YouTuber's best interest not to review or preview games that they don't normally like and review anyways, because their audience is not interested in anything that they don't normally post. So skip over them entirely.
Yeah, I mean, a big part of my video was you should do your research before sending out games, and that way I won't get mobile games in my email where I don't cover them. I don't have any interest in these mobile games. I can't play them. I don't want to, and yet I'm getting tons of them.
Is you're part of a database where you have kind of a profile, it's sort of a game dev YouTuber dating site essentially.
Yeah.
Where so they kind of have you put up front the research for them, and you still get all these emails where like they want you to review mobile games, and you're like clicked strictly PC. So it isn't even like these people are like cold emailing you asking for a review for our audience.
And yet they are. I think a lot of these indie devs are, and this is just a theory, they haven't said this, but I feel like they're filtering based on how many subscribers a YouTuber has. And so they hit a threshold and they're like, okay, any YouTuber over 5,000 subscribers, I'm going to mass email. And they just assume that, well, you know, if I send out 2,000 emails, maybe a handful won't play mobile games, but I mean, I'm sure some of these guys do, and that generates a lot of spam. And so really, like, my complaint, I guess, is that I'm just getting a lot of seemingly spam emails, but they're game developers who worked on a project, and I don't mind if the email is impersonal, which is one question I got from a dev. Like, do you care if an email is impersonal? Would you care, though? I'm kind of curious. Would you care?
No, because I understand that if they're doing promotions, they are going to have to email at least probably 50 people to get a handful of videos out there over their product. So I get that. You want to write your professional form email. There should be a personal sentence or two that is you just kind of craft per person. But to me, that just shows, hey, you actually looked at my profile and know that my game probably fits the kind of stuff I already do.
Yeah, that's fair. That's kind of what I said, too, to that person. I said, like, as long as they follow those guidelines, as long as it checks all the boxes for me, I don't care if the email is impersonal. I'd rather just be thrown into the features of the game and screenshots right in my face than have the basically fake-looking personal email, because I know that some of these devs try to make it look personal. They're like, hey, Vortak, or they go so far as to learn my real name. Hey, Dan, I saw your YouTube channel, and I really liked the video where you did this thing. Anyway, check out my game. And it's just like, don't try so hard. My name's Dan and I do videos of things, but just show me your game. I put myself out there. I don't care if you send me robotic emails, but apparently some people really get mad if the email sounds robotic. And some devs take hours on end to personalize each and every one of those 1,000 emails they're about to send out. That's crazy to me.
Oh, I would rather them spend time polishing their product than crafting personal emails and doing hours of research on YouTubers just to craft a more personal email that is not even really personal because it's all fake.
Yeah.
It's all meant to butter you up.
I actually laughed because the first response I got on the Reddit post was someone saying, look, these indie devs, some of them who are sending you these games are lazy. They are sending you the same old run-of-the-mill 16-bit platformer. I don't know. Like, they just said it a lot better. I could probably find it buried. It's
a carbon copy
post,
that's got a quote-unquote reskin
of
every other game that's already out there. And, for your college project, that's fine. But if you really want it to be considered a serious game, try to bring something new to the table.
Yeah, they basically ripped the quote-unquote lazy game devs a new one. So I got worried when my first response was that, because I'm like, I'm not trying to really drive that kind of discussion. I said to them, I'm like, it's hard for me to sit there and say that because I don't know how to develop a game and I don't know how much time it takes to make that piece of crap. Sometimes a game is just crappy, and I can't be the one to tell them, hey, this game looks like it was made in your sleep. It looks like you just kind of stumbled out of bed and tried to make a game and it's a piece of crap. WTF. I can't do that. Like, I just don't feel right doing that. But sometimes some of those games, you look at them and you want to say that. It's true. It's bound to happen, getting all those emails all the time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, some people even dump thousands of hours in it and they still can't produce a quality product. Yeah. So it's not really about the amount of time they put into it, but it's like, how polished is it?
How polished is it? And is it something that is a little more original, than just running to the right side of the screen, jumping over obstacles and crushing turtles?
I mean, there's a place in this world for, like, carbon copy games.
Yeah.
But you better have original graphics for it.
Something. Apparently, another problem is people, like, just use other assets. A lot of indie devs aren't using their own assets to create these games, and it was just an interesting discussion to watch unfold, especially on the quality side of it. The biggest thing, though, is one of my rules for covering indie games was embargoes. I said in my video, I don't cover games that have an embargo on them. And this just set off like a storm. Like, people got way into that. Like, some people were totally in agreement. But they were in agreement because they saw it my way. And I'm just going to go on record and say, like, I totally understand embargoes have, like, an awesome, benefit to them where you as a developer get to push your game out all at once. Like, one day, YouTube and Twitter is just flooded with this game if you get enough YouTubers to make videos of it. But the reason I said I don't like embargoes is because I walked into 200 emails, and some of those games are embargoed, and I just skip right past them because I'm trying to make a video. I want to sit down and make my video when I have time to make it. I'm not going to wait for the embargo to, unfold. I'd rather just
well, that
go
day
down
you'd
my
have
list.
to make two, because you'd have to make that video and then hold on to it.
Exactly.
And then find another game and make that video for today or tomorrow. Or whatever your turnaround time is.
Exactly. And my response was basically, hey, I see the benefits of embargoes. Don't get me wrong, but I just don't have the time. I work almost 7 days a week now. I have 2 different jobs, and it's very common for me to work a full 7-day week and get no day off and have to wait a whole nother week to get enough time off to feel like I can make some videos now. Now I have time. So, yeah, excuse me for not wanting to wait for your game's embargo to lift. But I don't know. It was just, that was the craziest one. In fact, the Reddit thread itself says you have like 92 comments. I'm like, oh my God. But most of the comments were concentrated on like this group of people arguing back and forth about the benefits and the pros and cons of an embargoed game.
I think embargoes are good because if you are putting forth enough thought into, hey, I want to do an embargo for my game release and stuff like that, it means you have a PR plan, which means you probably have at least some business sense, which means you probably have a more polished product. The problem is some people don't know how to plan getting the product to the YouTuber, and they'll be like, I have an embargo, but you're going to have to sit on this for like 2 months or something like that. And it's like, that's just too long. Like 2 weeks, I think that is a good amount of time because that gives the YouTuber the time to fit it into their schedule. And sometimes maybe, just maybe, especially if you have a good back and forth between a particular YouTuber, give them the chance to, their embargo is up a couple of days before the release.
They probably wouldn't go for that. It sounded like a lot of them wanted just everyone to have a quote-unquote fair shot.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, I get that, but I mean, that's why I said you need a good back and forth, and it needs to be somebody that you personally endorse anyways on, kind of, maybe like PewDiePie in a survival horror game.
Yeah.
Like, give him, I mean, there is no fair shot against him anyways, so giving him a couple of days ahead of everybody else is not really going to hurt or help anybody because he's going to be the top of the list anyway.
Yeah.
So giving him a game, it just means like everybody's like, oh, whoa, we all need to get it, which means other people will be interested in getting it day one that you didn't approach.
Yeah. There's actually like a whole nother topic of discussion where people were saying people will disobey the embargo, but there's nothing the dev can really do about it because they can't afford, legal resources to go after them, and they're not going to do it anyway.
That's rude.
Yeah, it's just ethics and morals at that point. You don't want to, basically crap where you eat, These devs are nice enough to give you an early copy of their game, and all they ask is that you don't post a video early, and then you're like, nah, I'll post it whenever I want.
Yeah, just don't do it. If you're not going to follow the embargo, don't do it. Don't be a butthole.
Yeah. So that was like the biggest one. Embargoes, the discussion's still going on, and I had to go, okay, well, wait a minute. Wait a minute now.
No, there's a lot of benefit for the dev to do the embargo.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. One of the arguments they used kind of irked me a little bit because they're like, well, it's a fair shot, so everyone knows. They said this. Everyone knows that when you're the first to post a video of a game, you're going to get all these views.
Mm-mm.
No, it's just not the case.
Not when it comes to indie games.
No,
because nobody's looking for it. Nobody knows about it.
Exactly. And I didn't even get into that. I said, yeah, if you're on the ground floor of a brand new game, it's going to mean some extra views, but I could post a video a week after the game came out. If I'm good with my SEO, if I'm good at promoting my own content, I will get probably more views than the guy who was there first. It's a lot of YouTube is all about how you promote yourself and how you promote your videos and your channel. So sometimes being the first one to the party isn't that great. If you wanted to play The Escapists right now, which is blown up on YouTube, tons of big YouTubers playing it, and you were really good at SEO and you had a following of people who were going to watch your videos anyway, you could probably get your video on the first page of YouTube. And that game's been out for a while now. So
yeah.
It just that was my argument to them. Like, it's fair in some ways, but in all honesty, those are people who probably need to learn a thing or two about SEO. And it takes, I don't claim to know everything about SEO, but I have had experience.
I would argue that rule really only applies for AAA titles.
Yeah. Yeah, ones that are very highly anticipated, and big YouTubers, the ones getting those anyway. So I was more or less targeting indie devs in that video and that Reddit post.
Yeah. I was going to say, you have to remember, I know you love your pet project, but you are an indie game. Nobody knows your game but you and everybody you've put it in front of, which means nobody's Google searching it, which means nobody is looking for it, which means being there ground floor day one does nothing for you unless you already have a huge following behind that YouTuber and they're like, oh, what's this?
Yeah. Yeah, that was... I wish I could say more to, like, I don't know, help out some of these YouTubers who are struggling with SEO, but I'm still getting lessons myself from colleagues that are good with this stuff. I can't claim to be, all knowing in that respect, but I've had some success in recent times with promoting my videos properly, and like Rising World, now, it's still a great example. That wasn't the first day it came out when I got it, and when I finally put out a video, that game had been out for like a week, I think, or more. Who knows? I don't really remember, but it did great. Like, it did so good because I followed advice I got from friends, especially Weem. He was my go-to for that one. That guy's a genius, but he helped me, get that video to where it went, and therefore I sold a bunch of copies of Rising World. So pat myself on the back.
Really appreciates that.
I'm sure they do. Not trying to toot my own horn, but I'm going to toot my own horn.
That game is really good, though. Like, he should be proud of that pet project.
That was a cool game. That was a cool find, and thank you to Kage for gifting that to me. By the way, member of our noob community, he just randomly sent it to me one day. Like, I think he said early Christmas present. Here you go. I'm like, oh wow, thanks. And yeah, it was awesome. So anyway, I just think, I don't know, it's got to be really tough to be an indie dev. It's got to be tough to market your game. I can't imagine, like, and people look to YouTubers like myself and people who cover indie games to be like the easiest way to get it out in front of people. And
it really kind of is if you think about it. If you can get a YouTuber on board with any kind of following that matches the kind of people who'd want to play your game, yeah, it's a great way to get it in front of a lot of eyeballs.
Yeah. I was trying to think, like, what other ways could devs promote their games, and I think the YouTube method is the best one. Really. I mean, Steam is going to bury you. Maybe Twitch. Kind of the same thing. YouTuber, streamer. If you're going to get it out there and that person has a following,
Although, Can you imagine embargo with Twitch? Like,
Oh,
I'm gonna stream this game, but I can't stream it till like 12 p.m. tonight because it doesn't release till then.
yeah. No, that wouldn't work.
Oh, no. But I just imagine like an embargo would really be painful for a Twitch streamer.
I agree. I'm kind of glad I got away from streaming because it's so much better. And I can schedule videos now, and that was what like people were arguing about too. Like, if you can schedule videos as a YouTuber, embargo should not bother you. You should be able to just play a game and schedule that
Yeah,
video.
honestly, I have to kind of agree with that when you're like, I hate embargoes and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, for somebody who's really, really busy, like embargoes should be like your bread and butter. Like, oh, I love it. Like, because then I can just make my stuff all way ahead of time and, work around it. But I'm gonna
I
guess
get-
the embargo timelines are bad for you.
A lot of them are. A lot of them are weeks in advance. And by the time the old emails I have that were embargoed are now like long since buried and the embargo has been lifted by this point. And now it's just old, so now I got to decide like that argument, like, oh, you need to be one of the first ones that are playing it. I got to decide, do I want to, spend time promoting this game or do I want to just play something more recent in my inbox? Which it just kind of depends on the game, really, if I'm going to make that decision. But yeah, embargoes. If I'm sitting down to make a ton of videos that night, I could do the embargoed game. But if I'm let's say it's Monday night and I have to work in the morning, but I want to get a game out, I want to schedule a game for tomorrow afternoon. I can't do the embargo, and so I'm like, okay, well maybe I'll come back to it. And by the time I remember, it's kind of been buried. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of sad. I'm actually thinking of doing a different kind of show to promote the games I promote. And that way I won't have to spend as much time playing each and every one for the entire video. I'm thinking like a video that spotlights a few different ones.
Oh, like maybe a three, here's a quick like look
Yeah, but
thing.
because I did the quick looks for a bit and I put a lot of time into those. But I'm thinking, I could take some of these games off my list pretty quick if I did like 3 quick looks in one video.
Yeah.
So that's kind of an idea.
Would
I'm
that be
toying around
saving
with.
you time though on the back end because you still have to almost put forth enough time to play the game to do it justice in that quick snapshot. In fact, I almost feel like if the shorter the amount of time you spend on it, the more you have to spend behind the scenes to give it a fair shake in that 2 minutes or 30-second slot.
Well, I guess the back end. If I think about it, I have to make a new thumbnail for each one of those games, and I have to do a whole bunch of like SEO stuff and write key tags and descriptions for each one of those games. And I'll
So
have
it
to do
stays on that, on the post editing and stuff.
Yeah. So I'll have to do, the SEO stuff regardless, but I feel like if I group games in one video and they're all kind of similar, it'll be easy to, do the SEO. I make one thumbnail for 3 different games, and, I think that'll kind of put me a bit ahead. And now I can go through this list instead of like, oh, I have to do a quick look video. I can only pick one of these 3 awesome games because I only have time to record one. And I just need one video, so I'll just pick this one. I'm gonna spend more time recording for that one video, but it's gonna be, I think, I don't know. I gotta think about it. I'm developing it.
I can see like some things going with that in my head.
What?
Like, no, well,
Some
like,
things going
first
bad?
of all, no. Like, graphically in my head, I can see how you could do a thumbnail, like, showing that it's multiple games and this, that, and the other. And then, you just kind of, especially if you, like you said, grouped games that were very similar together, because, like I said, there's a place in this world for carbon copy games. Sometimes you just want more of the same, but with a different graphical overlay. So it's like this one's fantasy based, but here's another game that's exactly the same except sci-fi.
Yeah. I think I don't know. I want to do more. I know that. I've been playing a lot of Grand Theft Auto and stuff, and we've been doing videos on the channel of it, and I'm still not done. I still have stuff that Mojito and I want to do in Grand Theft Auto on the channel. But in the meantime,
Corn dogs getting busy.
yeah, them corn dogs, the corn dog crew. In the meantime, I want to go back to also doing the indie games and trying to promote that community because these devs are all awesome. I mean, most of the devs, if not all of the ones that have commented on that Reddit post, all had like really insightful, good things to say. And
Well, that's good.
you know, it's an awesome community. You can't really get that with AAA developers, and it just makes it feel that much more worthwhile to be putting people's eyeballs on their projects. Because people love, you know, people love indie games. It's just a big trend right now. It's crazy.
Well, because AAA titles are $60 a pop, and a lot of times you really don't get your money's worth for that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's
I
actually...
mean, I understand it with the paychecks and this, that, and the other, and where the price comes from. But it's like for my personal value, if it's a 5-hour game, I think $60 is too much. When I know I can go online and pay what, like, a diddly squat for an indie game that probably is going to last me 30 hours.
Yeah, and there's just so many different genres too. People are going crazy with just all the different things. You can make all these different games now from home, like you have all the technology. So I think it's awesome. It's the same thing as, you know, a guy making YouTube videos from home and making it their career. They're using tools they have in their house, whereas years ago, to do something like this, you would need all this big, expensive machinery and software.
Oh yeah, it's becoming more, I guess, average user friendly
Yeah.
would be
For-
the terms we would
for
go
sure.
for.
There's actually an article, I'll have to link it in the show notes, of a developer who used to work for LucasArts talking about like the crunch time that happens with a game. And for weeks or sometimes months, developers are required to stay and work all these extra hours.
Oh, yeah.
And just make themselves basically miserable because
Yeah.
they just have to get this game out by this date. And it's just kind of sad to see that this has been going on for so long. Like this developer in particular was making a Star Wars game that came out in like 2002, and it's been going on that long. We've seen it even more with all these games that come out, and they're, you know, AAA titles with crazy bugs in them, like Assassin's Creed Unity.
You know what? I almost wonder if it was worse back then. But I remember back in school, you know, everybody be like discussing, like what industry do you want to go into and this, that, and the other. And I, you know, a lot of my friends were like, oh, I want to go and be a game dev and at a AAA company. And I'm just like, you're crazy, because that is the highest amount of stress and work for the least amount of pay.
I don't think
That is a labor of love, and you're going to drive yourself crazy doing it. And two, it would also ruin the magic for me. So, no.
Yeah. I think back in 2002, crunch time was even more important because
You had to finish it.
You cannot go back and patch it. You can't do it. If there's a bug in the game, it's in the game. That's it. If you've published that game with a bug, all you can do is like fix it and just publish an updated version, and maybe consumers who haven't gotten it yet will get the updated version. It's all you can do. So these days it's a lot more laxed, and I'm sure crunch time is still a thing, but their goals, especially with the big AAA companies that are like, well, we need to get this game up by this day. We don't care how buggy it is. Just get it out there. We need to get money for it, and then you can fix it later. That's the trend now.
I really hate that trend. Day one DLC, day one giant patches to games. I can't tell you how many times it's frustrating if I run out and buy the disc day one, and then I pretty much install the game, and then it's like, okay, we're going to connect to the internet now and download an update. And you're downloading an update that's pretty much the size of the whole game. And it's like, why can I just not just buy like a card at the store that is a CD key now, and then I just download it that way. If I'm gonna have to download the whole game anyways, please just give me a CD key code that I enter in and I can just download it straight up.
Yeah.
I'm patient enough for that. I know some people aren't, but it's like you're still not playing it any sooner because now you have to download that whole game anyway.
I Grand Theft Auto was miserable. 60 freaking gigs downloading that game.
How long did it take you to do it?
I think it was in total a 6 or 7 hour download.
Really?
And I didn't preload, even though I had the option to. It kept slipping my mind. Like, oh, I got to preload Grand Theft Auto, and I kept forgetting. So
Ooh,
I was one of those
yucky.
suckers. Yeah, and
2 hours.
I got it for my dad. It took him, I think, well, first the download said it was going to take a day and a half or something. I'm like, oh, it'll go down.
Yuck.
And he went to bed, came back, and it still had like 12 hours to go. I'm like, it didn't go down. That's ridiculous. It actually is taking you a day and a half. Thinking his internet must be terrible. Turns out it just froze like halfway through the download, so we had to do it over again, and then it took him about 7 or 8 hours to get the game. So that's...
I guess knowing people, like, I guess with your internet and your dad's internet and stuff, I could see why people would maybe want a CD, but for me, like, that took me 2 hours to get that whole game. So just for me, it's like, whatever.
Yeah, he said it would be faster for you to go out, buy a CD, and mail it to me. Like, you're probably right. You're probably absolutely right.
Ooh.
But,
well,
yeah,
you'd have to pay
managed.
for like 1 day shipping. Or maybe 2 day.
Yeah.
Prime it.
Probably do a week shipping and still get there faster sometimes. Oh my god, the internet's so bad. I'm yawning.
I liked that cover up. No one would have known if you hadn't have brought attention to it.
I heard it and I had to bring attention to it. I just had to do it. Well, on that note, maybe it's time to wrap up. Time to wrap up a little early because Dreadlow didn't join us for the discussion.
I know.
Hashtag blame Dreadlow.
Where's our filler? Where's our cream filling?
I know, we need to talk about Rust. It's an indie game.
The rusty filling?
Yeah, come on, Dreadlow.
Oh, no, he's so mad about Rust. We can't talk about that one. We need a new Rust game. That's what it is.
Yeah, he needs his next Rust. I was actually curious to hear what he thought of Heroes of the Storm. I was going to argue with him about it because I have a feeling he liked it.
Oh, so you guys have played it?
Yes. One of our awesome viewers gave me a code before the show ended last week, and I downloaded it. I played through the tutorial, and I have to say, very disappointed. For one reason. One reason alone. Otherwise, I'm sure it'd be an awesome game. I'm a Smite player. So when I get into one of those games and I have to click to move my character, I'm out. Can't do it.
But that's typical MOBA, isn't it?
I think League might be like that, but it's not even
It is.
Is it? Okay, but how does League work? Do you hold the mouse and the character just follows the cursor around like a cat? Or do you click and watch him move?
I think you click.
Okay. That's how Heroes of the Storm is. So I'm sure with League fans who also like Blizzard, they'll love it. But if you're someone who likes Smite and you like the WASD controls and you like that real-time control of your character, it's not there. And it just made me so mad. Like, I was so mad.
Did you check the options to see if maybe there was a way to choose that?
To be honest, I didn't. But it just, the game seemed like there was no option when I played it. Like, it didn't, you know what I mean? It didn't feel like it was designed to have WASD controls where you move the character in real time. It just, I don't know. I could go back and look, and I should, because I really, I like Smite a lot. I'm not very good at it, but I feel like I could probably get, better if I played it more. I can relate to Heroes of the Storm because it's Blizzard characters. They take Diablo, StarCraft, and Warcraft and shove it into one game. I can totally get on board with that, but the second I realized what the controls were like, I was like, I can't. I just can't. I like just moving around more, It just didn't feel right. It was clunky. But that was just me. If you're a League fan and that's how the game works, you'll love it. Especially if you like Blizzard. It's awesome. So, I know in Diablo 3, Kyrick in chat just said in Diablo 3 you click to hold the mouse, but in Diablo 3 your character chases it like a cat. And what I mean by that is you can click and he'll move, or you can hold the mouse button down and just drag it across the screen and your character follows it. And that's
the way I would do it. I would like have him drag follow.
Yeah, and that's how I want it to be. But it wasn't like that, so I was disappointed. I had a sad.
I just, because you have to avoid attacks from other like players, I think I would get insanely frustrated by the point and click navigation, because I know if I'm clicking abilities and stuff, WASD and all that would be faster and more efficient for dodging.
Yeah, it definitely is. And because our friend Frodo is out of town for a little while, I'm not able to play Smite with him. So I was thinking maybe Heroes of the Storm will be my my MOBA fix, but alas, it will not. So anyway, I think that's it. I think that's our show tonight.
You can get into MMOs again.
No, I cannot. Grand Theft Auto is my MMO.
About recording some stuff I do in there, but
Grand Theft Auto or in
no, well, Grand Theft Auto probably, but in 14.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Like, the guild is somewhat obscene. We'll say that.
Oh, I was gonna say stagnant.
No. They're very active. They're very friendly. They're very fun. But the conversations get a little obscene and adult. And, I don't have a problem with that. Obviously, I enjoy the free company. But I don't want that on public display.
No, I think you should embrace it. You should make that a part of the video.
There would be, I don't know.
Have it, just try to see who can talk the dirtiest. In relation to a video game. Who can make as many disgusting references and stuff.
Who is the most offensive? Yes. Go.
I would watch.
And I would probably get banned off of YouTube. Like, I'm sure that one of my friends would manage to create something that would be like, that is just not socially acceptable anymore.
Well,
they wouldn't mean it, but they said it, and that's offensive.
If Jemmy does decide to have a dirty talk off on Final Fantasy XIV, her YouTube channel is always linked on everythingnoob.com.
My dead channel.
In the description of the YouTube video, all the places you digest our podcast, you can find all the information. Just go to everythingnoob.com. It's all there. And you can also register for the site, join the discussion on the forums, all that stuff. If you find yourself on iTunes, be sure to leave us a rating, because that helps insane amounts. And we'd really appreciate it. So, other than that, I think that covers it. So thank you so much. We will see you next week with another edition of the Everything Noob podcast.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of the Everything Noob podcast. Hit up everythingnoob.com for our show notes, blogs, YouTube and Twitch channels, previous episodes, and even a t-shirt store. Please game responsibly, and we'll see you next week.